Senator Adams and I worked on a bill, and Jason also Senate Bill 129 that covered a couple of topics, and we're going to get into a little bit of the aim of that and some other things that we need to do to help solve our housing issues. Current challenges. Metro Louisville right now, if you spend any time downtown, we have basically a hollowed out urban core. We've depopulated rapidly since 2020. It's not a sustainable path. I tell people you can't have suburbs if you don't have an urb. You have to have a vibrant city core with entertainment and businesses to make it work. But right now, when you walk around downtown, there's only tourists and convention goers. There's very few business people, very few residents. Nobody's out buying lunch. Nobody's sustaining the local economy. Most of that departure, quite frankly, is due to crime. We had a massive explosion in crime in 2020. It's somewhat reduced now. It's still a problem. It's still the reason people don't want to be downtown. So that's problem number one we need to solve to repopulate downtown. But at the same time, suburban development has exploded, but with virtually no infrastructure improvements. Out in my district, where I think my district has something like 47% of the housing permits that are issued, all of our north-south connectors are 2-lane roads with no shoulders, no stripe. They're not wide enough for 2 full-size vehicles to pass. And we keep approving more and more houses. You go all the way out into the 2050 plan, and there are no plans to ever make those roads 3 lanes. The topography just doesn't support it because it's very steep, a lot of creeks, a lot of hills. But that's the next frontier to build for suburban Louisville. And the trouble is that it's expensive to build on land like that. The land's expensive and the topography makes it expensive. So home prices have skyrocketed. They're unaffordable for the average person. The development industry is really offering 2 choices. One of them is McMansions, which I'll say are the houses that are, $750,000 to $1 million and up, and high density apartments, neither of which are the right choice for average families. When I was born in the 1960s, in Jefferson County, the average home was about 1,300 square feet with a little bit less than 3 people in it. Now the average home in Jefferson County is 2,300 square feet with barely over 2 people in it. So particularly in the east, you have a lot of 5,000 square foot houses with 2 70-year-old people in it. And this is not a sustainable model. So we need to be building houses in the size and the price range that are appropriate for the people buying them. Also out in the suburbs, police, fire, and EMS coverage are very thin. And as Jason and I have noted to a number of officials, they're double paid by the taxpayers. They pay for you want to mention that, Jason?
Yeah, what he's talking about is we pay for the Louisville EMS services and Louisville Metro Police Department, and we don't get any Louisville EMS services, so we have to pay for a second. We have to pay for our Chapter 75 fire districts to provide our services. To make it worse, to add insult to injury, then our Chapter 75 goes inside the USD to make a significant portion of their runs. And then our police departments, if you come to my area and you see Louisville Metro Police Department, you've just seen a unicorn. And it's not because they don't try and they don't do a good job. It's because they're not in the East End. They're other places. So we've had to, again, even though we pay for LMPD, we've had to pay again for Anchorage, for Middletown, for Linden, for Greenmore Devondale, for J-Town. So those are our taxpayers are getting soaked paying the normal rate and then a separate rate because the normal taxes, those services are not being provided to the people paying for them out in our areas.
So we've got limited infrastructure. The road infrastructure is weak and not on a path to being improved. The police, fire, and EMS coverage is thin. And when you go out and look at putting high-density apartments in places like that, there are a few walkable areas. There's no public parks. There's no other amenities, bus lines, libraries, basketball court, anything you might want to have. It's just non-existent out there. So when we put people that may be in a lower income category and not have a vehicle, there's nothing for them to go do. They can't walk anywhere. They can't ride a bike anywhere. Unless you have a car, you can't get to any kind of a services.
And TARC doesn't provide services in the suburbs to speak of either. They only do the major thoroughfares. And even then with the new plan, it's going to be much more limited than that. So it's, the infrastructure is not there. It's not appropriate that we build these types of things in these areas. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to incentivize home builders to come out to the suburbs, or at least certainly a balanced approach, much more balanced than we have now. And then we're trying to figure out how we can help developers provide these kind of housing options inside the Watterson.
Amazingly, I've heard it repeated to me for the last 10 years that the philosophy we've had has been build the houses first and the infrastructure comes later. And that has never happened. I've been in East Louisville for 40 years. I've never seen it come later. So this is a problem we've got. It's an unsustainable model, and what's going to happen is it's going to drive people out of the county. I can't tell you how many of my constituents said, I wish I'd never built here. I should have moved on to Shelby or Spencer or Bullitt. So we're driving people out of the county. So opportunities. Mayor Greenberg, we work with him a lot on this stuff. He says there's infrastructure for 200,000 more people inside the Watterson. This is where that area has become depopulated. They've got sewer, they got sidewalks, wide streets, amenities, transportation, police, fire, EMS. It's all there. And there are areas inside the Watterson that have potential for brownfield development as opposed to greenfield, where you have low-value properties, maybe an abandoned lot or an old warehouse that could be scraped clean and repurposed for ownership opportunities, homes, townhouses, condos, higher density type housing. There are also buildings in the downtown area, in the urban core, that could be repurposed for residential use, like the Starks building, other buildings. Susan, our Senate Bill 129 provided incentives if conversion of those facilities goes to more than 50% residential. And that was a good chunk of the Senate Bill 129 bill, along with other opportunities to have foreclosures and things like that to rehabilitate some of these buildings. Because when you rehabilitate them into new housing, you also increase the tax base because the value is higher and can kind of rehabilitate an area. So the challenges that we've got, these brownfield sites, we've talked to builders and developers about this. It's not an even playing field. It's much cheaper to go dig up a cornfield somewhere, or in my case, a creek bottom, to put houses in it, than to remediate the brownfield. So we need to do something to help balance that out, to make it just as attractive to do a brownfield development inside the Watterson as it is to dig up a creek out in the east end. Now, there may be some local resistance to those upgrades. Sometimes you get charges of gentrification, but the effect is, as I said before, we're hollowing out this urban core, this depopulated urban core in Louisville. We've got to stop that trend. A lot of the downtown buildings are nice old structures, but they would take tens of millions of dollars to rehabilitate to make them into residences, because you got to put plumbing in each unit, for instance. So probably it's going to take some kind of government subsidy to make those attractive options. So what do we need for workforce housing? These are not exact figures. This is just kind of spitballing here, but we need 1 to 2 bedroom condos for people that want to live in an urban area, $120,000 range. They don't have to be big. They could be in these high-rise buildings. Be ideal for neighborhoods that are walkable, where you have public transportation. It could include assisted living for elderly people that are close to medical centers, medical complexes that are downtown. Then next up, you need probably 1 to 3 bedroom townhouses, duplexes, quad kind of living arrangements in the $150,000 range for singles and couples. And then maybe a little farther out, 3 to 4 bedroom single family homes in the $250,000 range for young families. And I believe Representative Whitten had a bill about manufactured housing that kind of fits that niche pretty well. It's very hard as a builder to build a house for $250,000 and make money on it. But that's roughly what you can buy. And the adjusted gross income for a family in our area is $67,000, and your mortgage expense should be 30% of that. So that's about all you can buy. It's $250,000 to $300,000 with mortgage rates the way they are now. So if builders are solving the problem by building a $700,000 house, it's not solving the problem. It's forcing people to reach too far. I believe somebody up here said, gosh, I can only afford $300, but somehow we'll borrow money from mom and dad and we'll get to $400, and they can't make it in that house. But they're being tempted to, because that's all the market is offering them. So the obstacles we have to overcome. I can't tell you how many developers I've talked to that say that the profit on a $250,000 house is only about $20,000, where a single McMansion you can make $200,000 plus profit. So they got to build 10 smaller homes to equal the profit in one larger home, and frankly, they just don't want to do it. It's not financially attractive to them. But that's what the market needs. People need smaller houses, less expensive houses. High density apartments are very profitable for developers, but they usually have an affordable housing component in them. To reap some government incentives, usually from the federal government, but they're not truly affordable. I mean, is an apartment that rents for $1,900 a month affordable to anybody? And if you put them out in the Far East when you don't even have a sidewalk, where are you going to go from your affordable apartment? So it's not benefiting the people that move into them. It's not benefiting the neighborhoods they're going to. So it's just not appropriate for the suburbs. They're already gridlocked with traffic that is unresolvable in the current road plan. But those things might be ideal for brownfield redevelopment inside the Watterson. So what's the path forward? We want to get developers to the table with Louisville and state leaders to find development opportunities inside the Watterson for housing opportunities normal families can afford, normal working families. Urban apartments and ownership condos and repurposed buildings, new ownership townhouse developments and brownfield sites. You can get, 40 townhouses to an acre in certain areas. even new single-family tracts in brownfield areas. Maybe the builders have said we need to go to R5, to put more houses per acre. I think that's appropriate in some areas where there is infrastructure and urban transport. But we collectively need to examine some incentives to equalize the ground cost between ripping up a green field in East Louisville versus repurposing a brownfield. Because what we're doing now is exacerbating the problem. We're continuing to hollow out the urban core. We're making it more expensive and more gridlocked in the east, and we're going to end up driving people all the way out of the county. And then they'll be driving somewhere else to buy their gas and groceries. So that's what I wanted to have begin the discussion here. You have anything you want to chime in on that? Okay.
I'll just add, we, particularly in Louisville, we just need to have a collective conversation on this balanced approach. And John is right. We seem to be focusing so much on the east end of the county, and we're forgetting about our urban core. And, I was reminded of this. Both of my boys, when they graduated from college, they didn't want to buy a house. They were looking for a condo because they didn't want to mow the grass. They didn't want to clean out gutters. They just wanted to have something really easy. And they also didn't want to live in the suburbs because that's not fun. And there was really nothing available to them. They didn't want to pay rent. They wanted to have some sort of ownership opportunity. And I couldn't believe it, that there wasn't there wasn't something there for them to look at and that was affordable. And so that's when I really, became more interested in this kind of wider range of housing opportunities for, people like my kids. And there's more than just two of them. I mean, there's a lot of people that are living in Louisville that don't have that broader range of opportunities. So we do have to think bigger. And I think we have a lot of people in this community that could think bigger. And so I'm really excited about that holistic conversation about opportunities in Louisville.
And Madam Chairwoman, I would add that it's not just infrastructure, environmental concerns we're concerned about. It's also obviously the urban core losing population to the suburbs. And then we're losing population in Jefferson County to southern Indiana and then to the counties that surround us. But what I care about the most is the opportunity for a working man and a working woman to own something. And that's true in the West End, in the East End, and the South End. Every person, we want to make sure they have the opportunity. As Senator Carpenter said, maybe it's not for everybody, but it is for a lot of people. And if they want to rent their whole lives, more power to them. But if you live in the West End, the East End, the South End, or Old Louisville, and you want to own something, we should do better in giving that person an opportunity to own something. You want to do something about crime? Get a bunch of owners in the area. They're going to, not that renters don't, but they're going to care a little bit more about the school and about the Kroger and about the corner. They're just going to. And they're entitled to be able to own something. They're working. That's the kind of person that makes America work. They're going to work every day paying taxes. I'm not worried about the wealthy, and I'm not worried about the wealthy. I'm worried about everybody. But I'm most worried about the man and the woman who are building this country. They built this country and they continue to do so, and they're priced out of the market. And I don't care where they live, East End, West End, South End, they're entitled to some ownership. So when we're talking about infill, to me, obviously renting is part of that. But to me, infill still means ownership. It's not in my district, but those people are entitled to ownership just like the people that I represent. And that's what we need to try to do, get the developers to the table, say, look, we know the economic incentives, we understand capitalism. You're going to get the most bang for your buck in one, or you're going to get multiple. We want to help them, help the mechanic and the nurse and the teacher, and get those people into the ownership market so they can build their own wealth. They can leave wealth to their children. And we know, not that others don't, but we know they care more about their own community next to the place that they own. So that's what we're trying to accomplish all across the Commonwealth. But we come from Louisville, and we want that all across Jefferson County.